Alan, what's up, man? So great to have you on the podcast. I know this has been a very long time in the works, and Kip bailed on us, and we were finally able to make it happen. So I'm glad you're here.
Glad to get the opportunity. Yeah, 5 years I've been trying to be a scab on the show, and it only
You
took
made it.
Kip jumping out. Yeah, worked
Congrats,
hard.
man. You made it. I I think if people knew, um, I think people sometimes perceive that this is a higher quality like production than it is, which maybe is a testament to what we're doing, but it's also I think it's a good learning experience because a lot of times people believe they have to have everything dialed in and perfect and this production quality and everything has to be professional. And what I tell a lot of guys is just get started. You can figure that out along the way. And that's what we've done very, very well here with Order of Man, which is why we're still around almost a decade later.
Yeah, I think it's the content that makes people come back. Doesn't matter what your background imagery or editing is like. In the end, if it's serving them, if they're getting what they want, then they'll keep coming back for more.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully that's what we're giving them. I mean, we've got questions. I see you post a lot in the Facebook group, and of course, our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council. And I comment, and I'm very active in there as well. More lately than I have been in the past. And man, so many guys are struggling with business, with interpersonal communication, with relationships, every facet of life. And if we can give some guys a few things to consider, then I feel like we're doing our job here.
It's exactly it. Giving back from what we've learned. It's how we grow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, guys, so Kip can't make it this week. As you guys know, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, Kip is our typical co-host. And then we have Sean Villalobos fills in. We've had Drew Kachurik fill in, and Alan, we're having you fill in. I actually talk about you quite a bit on the podcast. I hope you listen because I do. There's a few lessons that I've learned in particular from you that have been instrumental in my growth and progress in life, not to mention all of the other conversations and discussions that you and I have. But there's a few lessons that really stick out, and I'm excited for you to impart some of your wisdom on the guys today.
Thanks. Yeah, it's I enjoy getting to give back, getting to share some life lessons. I went through a really bumpy beginning to my life and have gone through a couple of different phases, both in fire and EMS, and then in entrepreneurship and business, and learned just so much. And you know, it's in the Iron Council especially. It's such an opportunity to see other men reach past their fears, finish failures that they've been having for years in their life and don't even recognize that they're still having it. And when you watch somebody grow like that, and it doesn't just grow them, it grows their family and then people around them. What a great it's just a great thing to see. I mean, it's like being up on a pulpit and seeing your parishioners do better. It's no different.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's jump into some questions. We don't normally take questions from Instagram. We're going to try to get to those questions. I know first and foremost, we're going to hit our brothers in the Iron Council. And then if we have time, we'll get over to Instagram. And from there, we'll go to our Facebook group. Well, why don't you lead us off with the first question from our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council?
Awesome. The guys were good to me. They decided to throw some entrepreneurial questions, knowing that's one of my expertise. So first one comes from Craig Keel from Battle Team Romulus. He says, what advice do you give to men wanting to start their own business but not sure what business that is yet? What would your recommendations be for the first steps to taking venturing into the world of self-employment?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, Alan, I'm really glad we're leading off with these entrepreneurial questions. I think a lot of people, and you might have some differing opinions on this. I don't know. That's why this is going to be good. I think a lot of guys out there will chase the money. So they'll look for opportunities where money is. They'll look for other ventures that have been successful, and they'll think, well, that's the vein I need to explore. I'll give you a very interesting example. I live in southern Utah in the town of St. George, just outside of St. George. And there are so many soda shops in St. George just popping up left and right. And the first one that came in, I can't even remember what it is because I don't give a shit about overpriced flavored soda, but apparently people do. So this first one comes in and they blow up. strangely to me, they blow up. I cannot wrap my head around standing or driving through a drive-through and sitting in this long ass line for overpriced flavored soda. It's weird, but it is. I'm not. I'm telling you, if anybody
Okay.
who's listening, I'm. It's crazy. If anybody who's listening to this from Southern Utah, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So you have these overpriced flavored soda things popping up, and it did really, really well. And then another one pops up, and then another one pops up, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And there's probably 17 of them, different organizations, companies here in Southern Utah that sell overpriced sugar water. I don't care about that, but apparently people do. I'm just telling you, people chase the money and it's stupid. It's ridiculous. Like, what I would suggest is find something that you like to do first. Stop chasing the money because people are making millions of dollars selling sugar water to hundreds of thousands of people in Southern Utah, and they're making a boatload off of it when you can just go to the convenience store and pick yourself up a Sprite or a Mountain Dew or a Diet Coke, whatever your thing is. But they're doing it. So it tells me two things. Number one, don't chase the money, chase the interest. What are you engaged in? What are you interested in? What are you excited about? What motivates you? What propels you? What gets you up every single morning? And then number two is be just engaged in that thing. Like, people are making money doing some weird shit. Alan,
I
you
do
do
weird
some
shit.
weird shit.
I do. I do. I have
And
weird
and I
business.
and I see what you do, and I'm like, this guy's killing it, doing some crazy stuff. You're on our calls in the Iron Council, and you're working on. I'm not going to ruin the surprise here, but you're working on your not only your hobby but your profession while you're on the calls. It's weird to me, and I'm not saying that negatively. I'm saying it's unique, it's strange, it's interesting. But there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who are interested in exactly what you're interested in, and you're making a great living doing something that you're very excited about. So, what I would suggest, first and foremost, don't chase the money. Don't look for what the market is going to offer. Look for what you're interested in, and then we can find different ways to explore those avenues and veins. What do you think on that, though, Alan?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to be interested in what you're doing. Maybe to some extent the product itself. To me, the bigger thing has always been chasing the service that you can provide. What can you do that people are willing to pay money for? If you've ever had somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, I'll pay you for to do this for me," if you're good at doing taxes and people say, "I'll pay you to do my taxes," or you make cupcakes really good, "I'll pay you for some cupcakes." Well, they're actually paying you because you're providing a service. And that to me has always in all of my businesses been the way they got rolling was people asked me to do stuff for them or make a product for them. Or I just heard people saying in my community, man, I wish we had this. I guess people in Utah are saying, I wish we had more soda. So, the call is being answered there. It's what service can I provide? I make modification parts for kids' Power Wheel cars, the little cars they ride around in the yard on. That's my business. And it's flourished into a large company because every product that I make, not just the launching of the business, but every single product that I make, I'm not guessing at, let me make this because it'll make me money. I'm gonna sell this product to people. I never do that. I listen to what problems people are having and I make a better motor because the motors are breaking. I hear the gears are breaking. I make a better gear. I hear the batteries are dying quick, so I make longer runtime batteries. It's always in response to what people want. So that's what you want to do. Everybody has a skill. Everybody has something about them that makes them a unique individual. And look, it's not always going to be monetizable to make you $1 million. If you bake the world's best cookies, yeah, maybe you'll become famous Amos, but you do have to put an understanding on what that business can be worth. And nowadays we do have, especially if you're making a product with the worldwide internet, we have so much more capability to ship nationally, internationally even. So what seemed like a small business can be bigger. But we'll get into, I think one of the other questions gets a little further. Just make sure that what you can do as a service is going to provide enough for an income for you, or keep it as a side hustle. Nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wrote down knowing what is marketable and what is just good or something you enjoy, right? So if you and your mom enjoy baking cookies for the family, they might be delicious. They might be the best cookies that anybody has ever tasted. Are you going to make a profitable business out of it? Probably not. So just make them for Thanksgiving, make them for Christmas, make them for the family, give them to the neighbors. But we also have to look for something that's going to be marketable and profitable and people want. And also, this is important. Just because you think the cookies are good doesn't mean everybody else thinks the cookies are good. And
Right.
that's the
If you have
bias
to
people
sell the
have.
cookies, they're not good.
Right. And that's how you know is if you try to sell something and nobody's buying it, it's not as good as you think it is. People aren't dumb. That's what people say. Oh, they don't know. They don't understand the value. No, they get it. It's not good. That's it.
Yes.
So I think to his second part of his question, what do you do to learn how to sell or learn how to grow the business? You learn how to sell. You got to market it. You got to go out and sell something. And if you can't sell anything, there's only one or two things that are happening. Nobody cares, or you're not good at it. So you got to figure out which one it is. I would lean more towards figuring out why you're not good at selling the thing first, because I've had some horrible products that I've been very excited to try because the marketing was good. So I would worry about how do I sell this? How do I learn marketing? And then you can worry more about like, okay, is this a marketable product? I think maybe both go hand in hand, but I think those are two important factors to consider.
Agreed. Absolutely. All right. Our next one comes from Evan Berwick, also from the Iron Council, the Brethren. What are the first three things you would do if you started a brand new business and if you couldn't use any of your current funding or contacts?
I like this question because I've also contemplated like what would happen if you just picked me up, plucked me out of Southern Utah today, and you put a blindfold on me, put earmuffs on me, like I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't see anything, and 12 hours later you dropped me, parachuted me down to this random town. Like, what would it take me to entrench myself into the community, and then what would it take to build myself into a success within that community? This is easy. It's really easy, guys. Just go where the players are. That's it. Just find out where the players are. So, who are the players in the community? Politicians and entrepreneurs. Those are the two people. Those are the players in the community. And I would say maybe as a third, clergy. So you have politicians, entrepreneurs and clergy. So where do the politicians hang out? Well, they hang out at city council. They hang out at business ventures. They're trying to, get on their soapbox and talk about what it is their platform is. Where do the entrepreneurs hang out? Business luncheons, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, charitable organizations. Where do clergy hang out? At church. This is not hard. So you can go to where those individuals are, insert yourself into the conversation. Now, if you're dropped into the middle of this town and you don't know anything about what these people are about, you don't have anything to offer just yet, then the best thing that you can do is just be curious. I don't need to come in and sell you on anything. I just need to figure out what you're about. Hey, tell me about what you're about. I just moved here. I'm interested in learning more about the people who move this town in the right direction. What's your business? What's your platform? What's your thing? What's this? What's this? The more you ask questions that way, the more successful you're going to be by inserting yourself into the conversation. As a bonus, so we have politicians, entrepreneurs, clergy. As a bonus, go where successful people are. Successful people are at the gym. They are. Alan, you're successful. You're at the gym. I'm successful. I'm at the gym. That's where successful people hang out. It could be the actual gym. It could be jujitsu. It could be CrossFit. It could be any number of places, but successful people are at the gym. And guess when they're there? Really, really early, from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. They're not there at 10. They're not there in the evening. They're there from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. When do you go to the gym, Alan? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I'm usually there around 2 p.m.
Okay, well, you're the exception then,
Yeah,
because
so
I don't think most successful people who are out there killing and getting after it are going to be there at 2 p.m. I'm not saying that about you. I'm just saying,
no, I
generally
agree. They're
speaking,
not there when I'm there.
right.
Okay.
The stay-at-home moms are there before they have to go pick up their kids from school. So think about where you're going to position yourself, where the successful people already are, and then just go ask questions. Just insert yourself into the dialogue, the conversations, the events, everything else that's happening. If you're at Rotary and somebody says, hey, we need a volunteer to do X, Y, and Z, you're the guy. And you can come up with all the reasons. Oh, I don't know people. I don't know this. I don't know that. Figure that shit out. That's easy. You know, figure, I don't know anybody. How am I going to do sponsorships? Hey, you don't need to know anybody. If they need a person to help with sponsorships, go do sponsorships. By the way, sponsorships is the right place to go because guess what else you get to go do? You get to go to the bank and meet the branch manager. You get to go to all the entrepreneurs in town and talk with them, not about you and your business, but introduce yourself because you're doing the Rotary fundraiser for the year. Like that's how you do it. I can't think of a better way to do it than that.
Yeah, I agree. The answer I was going to say is the cliche of who, not how. I never heard that when I started my main business, but that was exactly what I did. I reached out to manufacturers of motors, gears, other things to find out. I'm not an engineer by trade. So I reached out to them to get those contacts and to get the communications. If you can't, in the question here, you can't use any of your current funding or contacts. So, if you're leaving a job and you have a non-compete clause that you sign, fine. Call other companies that you can use as mentors, or the manufacturers. If you're in a product line, they're happy to help talk you through, teach you things that you don't know, give suggestions. Call other people that do the same business that you're looking to do, but might be on the other side of the country, and they're not competition to you. A lot of business owners, they're really happy to share. They want to, they want to give back. So that's a big thing. Funding, I think you touched on funding really well. Look, again, I started my business with $200, so but it took a long time to grow because I did that. If you can do it that way, great. Otherwise, funding comes from, like you said, meeting other business owners, good old fashioned bank loan, federal loan, investors. There's lots of websites to gain investors from. You just have to be smart and make a good business plan, and then you can put yourself out there for it. It's not really too hard. It's the fear of doing it that is stopping more people than the actual process.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested, Alan. When you were talking about funding and you started with $200, I've bankrolled Order a Man and other businesses as well. With and then when I say bankroll, I'm talking about less than $1,000. Not that I came in with $100,000 to grow this thing.
Yep.
Um, I'm interested in what your thoughts are about brokering things because I don't know if you did this, but sometimes people are concerned they don't have the capital to purchase supplies or parts that you want to sell, for example. Or for me, it might have been t-shirts. Like, how am I going to buy 1,000 t-shirts? I don't have the capital to do that. I don't have the place to do that. And so what you can do is you can broker these products. And so if you're selling, let's say hypothetically, a body kit for a certain kind of RC car, you may not be the one that needs to sell it, but you can broker it and take a little bit off the top. And that's a great way to create some additional revenue without having to have all the merchandise, without the overhead, without the storage for the place. For t-shirts, for example, when I started, I'd have to go out and buy 1,000 t-shirts. I could just go through one of these companies that would sell them one at a time. Now, look, I'm not going to make as much money doing that. So inevitably, I'm going to move out of that if I want to grow a successful business. But that's a great way to generate some revenue, get some product and merchandise out there, and start getting your feet wet without having the extra cost and burden of overhead, excessive cost, etc.
Yeah, brokering is good. You don't make as much profit, but it gets you rolling. GoFundMe is another good way. What I did, this was before GoFundMe existed, was I took pre-orders. So
Mm.
my $200 went to build a website, and those first orders that came in paid for the product that they needed, and then a little profit on top, so I could start carrying inventory because people buy from you a lot quicker if you keep it in stock. So there's lots of different ways. You just have to think about it. And this goes back to the who, not how. When you talk to somebody else that started a business, find out how they did it if they didn't have any cash. Groups like the Iron Council are fabulous for it because you have specified areas to speak to entrepreneurs, or finance people. There's so many areas that they're all right there as a resource at your fingertips.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. What's next?
Let's see. John McDermott, from the Forge, one of our newer members. What are the key components to creating, forging, and fostering your brand?
Fostering and creating your brand. Number one, know what you stand for, but I would also make sure that it's relevant to the conversations that you want to be having, because you can have a lot of stances on things and some things really don't matter. So for example, if I'm doing laundry, I don't care whether it's Tide or I don't even know what the other products are, but I don't care if it's Tide or some other product. I really don't. It doesn't bother me at all. It's irrelevant to me. But if
Yep.
we're going to talk about what it means to be a man, okay, that's relevant. Like what some people say compared to what other people say actually matters to me. And it clearly it matters to other people, because not only have we started our movement here with Order of Man, but we've springboarded dozens, if not hundreds of other companies and organizations that are doing something similar because they saw what we did. So clearly it's an important message. And I think that's important to recognize. Is this something people care about? Because if it's not, then whatever position you take, whatever stance you take, and if you talk to your blue in the face, nobody listens in because nobody cares. So make sure that it's something that you care about, but also making sure that it's something other people care about. Next is making sure that you're communicating it in an interesting way. There's so many people. Let me give you an example. I get messages every single day, emails typically, from PR organizations that are trying to hawk me on who I should have on my podcast for leadership. And they all sound the same. They all look the same. They all speak the same. They all have the same boring points that every other one of them introduces and puts in front of me. And I'm just not interested. Not because I don't think they have something quality to share. They probably do, but they're not sharing it in a unique and interesting, relevant way that's going to stand out from the pack. So for us with Order of Man, I've taken some very hard line stances on a few topics. And when I take those hard line stances, a lot of people get upset about it. But you know what? A lot of people get very excited about it because finally, somebody is saying what they've been thinking for years and years and years and haven't either had the balls or the platform to share it themselves. That's how you know you're hitting strides, when people are like, thank you for saying that. I've been thinking that for years. The more you hear that, the more you're on the right track. And the third component is to continue to innovate. I just said we help dozens, if not hundreds of other organizations springboard into a platform similar to what we're creating here. If I'm not continually innovating and thinking of new ways to attract interesting, unique, and new individuals, then all those people are going to run circles around me. They're going to catch up and they're going to lap me. So I need to be out ahead of the quote unquote competition by continuing to innovate with products, events, communication, whatever it is we're offering, coaching, consulting, et cetera, et cetera. If I can continue to innovate, then I'll always be out ahead of the pack. And that's very important when it comes to creating your own brand.
Awesome. I think a lot of people think brand, they think like a logo, especially new business people. They don't understand that there's more behind a brand than just the logo. That Starbucks isn't just the Starbucks logo. It's, and they think, well, coffee. But there's more to a brand than that. It's your mission, and you should have a mission. If not a statement written out, even at least a sentence, and know what your company is doing, other than just being there to sell and make you money. That's how you know you're doing it wrong. If that's all you can think about is, well, my mission is to make money. You're not, think about the service that you're providing. My company, on the website, it says at the top something like, be your kid's hero, learn to, repair things with them or something. I don't even remember what's on the top of my own website. But the point is, um, that's the mission. That's what you want your brand to be, is what does your company represent through its product, through the service that it provides. And then use that branding. The way you get that branding out there is not advertise your logo. Yeah, I mean, you want your logo out there for recognition, but what's behind it? Talk about in your advertising that you're helping your kids, or that you're helping men to be better men. As you get more into that, you'll get, like Ryan was saying, the feedback back that's going to help you tweak your mission, and then therefore tweak the business to go with that, to keep changing the service that you provide to be better for the people you provide it for. That's a big component also when we're talking about the brand, is not getting hooked on selling just your thing, but always selling the service that you're providing. When Ryan, when you started the Order of Man, the Iron Council, you thought people would graduate out of it, that they would go through it like a course and learn to be better sovereign men and leave. But you've evolved it because you saw that what the mission became was to keep growing, that men are always growing better. There is no complete. You're never sovereign and just stay sovereign. There's always other levels to go to. So you've evolved the business to service people better in that end of the business. The brand itself has changed because of that.
Yeah, it should always be evolving. You want to hear a great example of this is Bud Light is a great example of this from a
Yeah.
negative standpoint.
Yeah.
Bud Light forgot, Budweiser forgot because they made a horrible hiring decision. They forgot who their base was. And because they forgot who their base was and they weren't listening to their customer base, they made a poor marketing decision. And let's call it for what it is. It was a marketing decision. Bud Light doesn't care about transgenderism. Okay. Like, get that out of your mind right now. What they care about is selling more beer. I don't give a shit about whether a dude has a dick or not. They don't care. They want to sell more beer. And their play was, we think Dylan Mulvaney can help us sell more beer. They were wrong. How many billions of dollars of market space did they lose because they made a poor branding decision? And that's what that was. That was not a social decision. It was a branding decision. And now you watch them and they're backpedaling. They're UFC. This is a horrible decision on UFC's part. And Dana White will defend and everything else. He's wrong. I love Dana White from what I see. The guy's incredible. He stands up. He's flat out wrong on Bud Light and Budweiser. He made a horrible, horrible decision. But it's his organization. He can make that decision. I'll probably still watch UFC. It's not that big a deal to me. But that was a bad decision on Budweiser or Bud Light's part. And they're reaping the benefit of that. That's a branding choice. And you can see how horribly it works out when you forget to cater to your customer base and understand who your customer base is. And now they're like, oh shit, we're not marketing to Dylan Mulvaney and the transgenders of the world. We're marketing to the guys who watch UFC. So they've made some pivots. I'm not really willing to forgive at this point, but Dana White is, and, eventually, maybe they'll crawl their way back to where they were before, but that's a great example of what a brand can and should not do when it comes to their marketing and branding.
Exactly. Never lose focus on your customers. It's all about them in the end.
Yep.
Always.
Hey, can I say one more thing about the Bud Light thing? Because I really want to drive this home.
Wow. All right. You want to get sued by Bud Light? All right. Go ahead, man.
No, I mean, I'm not defaming. I just said it's a horrible decision.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. Go ahead.
so when I was in, I went to, this was maybe a month or two ago, right in the midst of all of this thing. When I walked into a convenience store and I saw a guy. He was this like rugged cowboy, like badass looking guy, and he went to the beer aisle or the beer cooler or whatever, and he came back out with his 24 pack of Bud Light. And he walked to the counter and put it, and I immediately thought, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Now I don't drink anymore. I used to drink a lot. I don't drink anymore. But I thought, what the hell is wrong with this guy? That's how you know they missed the mark. It's so widespread now
Right.
that people see a guy and he looks a certain, I don't know that guy, but he
Right.
looks a certain way. He carries himself a certain way, and he's got a 24 pack of Bud Light. And I think, what's wrong with that guy?
Yeah. But if he was wearing a tutu, you would be okay with it.
A tutu or skinny jeans, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks for me. So I got it. I understand.
The
I'm just
amazing thing
saying
is,
there's an
though,
image there.
a year or 2 years ago, before that all went down, you would be fine with that image.
Yeah, it would make sense. It would track to me and it would be congruent and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That guy drinks Bud Light. Yep, got it. Check.
And look, guys, the companies that are the size of Budweiser can get away with a mistake like that. We've seen other companies make those marketing errors. We've seen car manufacturers come out with some of the ugliest, most boring looking cars, and they don't sell, but they're big enough where they can take those losses. Most of us can't handle a loss like that. So stick to your core competencies always and stick to your customers.
Yep. All right, what's next?
Awesome. Jay Welsh, Battle Team Romulus. Many entrepreneurs struggle to delegate as they grow and, in effect, become a lid for their business. Their mentality seems to be if you want it done right, do it yourself. What advice do you have for transitioning from working in the business to working on the business? I want to ensure I'm spending my time and energy on the highest return tasks so that the business will continue to grow.
I'm not the guy to talk to on this, Alan. You know this. You and I have
I've been
had
trying to get Ryan to hire more people for a while now.
you and I have had countless conversations. I will say, I think there's a difference, and we need to understand this. And I don't want to hear what you have to say here on this, Alan, too, but there is a difference between wanting to grow the business into what you're talking about and delegating and bringing the right people and not growing, which is okay too. And I think that in the entrepreneurial space, especially with guys listening to this podcast and the podcast category that sometimes this gets lumped into, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about leverage and scaling and maximizing and all of these things. And that's fine and great. But I want you to know you're not obligated to do that. If you have a business and it's really, really good as a solo type business, and maybe you have a few general contractors, maybe you have one or two people on staff, and that's what you want to do, by all means, do that because you might make multiple six figures a year. You might be able to coach your sons and daughters' sports teams and go to all their games and practices and go on the vacations you want. And if that's what you want, don't think that you have to scale this thing and leverage it to its full capacity because maybe that's not what you're after. That's the only thing I want to throw in there. And that's not necessarily the case for me, but it is something that I'm constantly weighing. Do I continue to grow and evolve this thing into hiring dozens, if not hundreds of employees and maximize and scale this thing? And how do I balance that with the lifestyle that I've created that I actually quite enjoy at this point? So I'd love to hear what you have to say on it, Alan.
Yeah, I talk to entrepreneurs a lot about making sure that you're willing to work as hard as it takes to obtain your vision. So that exactly is to your point. To become a millionaire, and I don't even know what the term millionaire, what does that mean now? Do you have $1 million in your bank account, $1 million in assets? But to become wealthy, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of headache, heartache, risks, failures. You have to be willing to work that hard to do it. If you're happy making 80 grand a year and it's paying for your lifestyle that you enjoy, do that. Enjoy that. But I lost the question there. To fully grow your company, you have to have employees if you want to get to that next level. That's your biggest step, especially for the people that are hands-on people that they provide a service. Whether you're an accountant, a woodworker, whatever, you can only do as much as you can provide in 40 hours or however many hours a week you're going to work. That's the maximum income you're ever going to make. Is that you working 40 hours a week or 70, whatever you're willing to put in. So you have to realize an employee is a necessity to make more money so that it can free you up to, as they said, work on the business, not in the business. And that means you're out there marketing your business. And then you have to let go. That's always a hard thing. Is once you train that employee, an employee will never work as hard as you do. It's not their business. Why should they? Be okay with that. They're going to do that job maybe 80% as good as you would do that job. Know that when you're hiring for that, and you give them the things to do that either you're not good at, so they'll do it at a higher percentage, or that you just don't enjoy doing, so that you can do the parts of the business you do enjoy. And then keep adding more employees. Don't Once you do one, it's actually easier to add more. but don't be afraid to take that step. It's another fear factor issue, Ryan. It's what do I need to do to grow bigger? Well, I know I need to hire an employee. I've never met a singlepreneur, I think they call them, that didn't know that hiring an employee was the next step they needed to do. But since they've never done it before, they're afraid to do it. And
Yeah.
that's the only time we're ever afraid. You're never afraid to hire your second employee. It's only the first one. Everything you're doing in your business, it's only the first time you do it, you'll be afraid of it.
So I've got a couple of thoughts, Alan. Number one, I'm going to take a little bit of issue. I don't disagree with you, but I'm going to take a little bit of issue with one thing you said. You said they'll never work as hard as you. I don't disagree. I don't think they will because they're not as invested as you are. Rightfully so. That makes sense to me. So
Okay.
I don't disagree. I think we need to be very careful of that narrative because that narrative will keep us trapped. Because you're going to say, well, they'll never work as hard as I do. So why should I even? Like, that's the follow up. Well, they'll never work as hard as me. And, then it's just going to be a cost and a headache. That's the follow up to that thought. Here's what I'm thinking as you're saying this. They may not work as hard as you, but their 80% might be better than your 100%. Like, for example, taxes. I'm going to work as hard as I can on my business, but an accountant, a trained certified public accountant, his 60% is going to be better than my 100. And
True.
I'm okay with that. The other thing I wrote down here is I think this is very important from a tactical standpoint. Like if we're struggling to hire and bring people in, because I do have people contracted. I don't have a full-time employee currently, but I have people contracted. And the where it started to make sense for me was this question. And I'll ask you guys. If if I said to you, I want you to give me $20 of your money, you give me $20. And in return, I'll give you 200. You give me 20 and I'll exchange it for 200. How often would you make that trade with me? As often
Oh,
as you possibly could.
sure.
You'd do it an infinite number of times. And I think that's where you can start to look at your business for bringing people on is if I could take somebody and I can pay them 20 or 30 or $50 an hour. And in return, I'm going to recoup an hour and that's going to yield for me 500 or 1,000 or 5,000. I'm going to make that trade all day long. I think where a lot of entrepreneurs get into trouble is when they don't have anything else to do. And
Yeah.
so they're like, well, I got to hire this person for $40 an hour. And so I'm going to pay them X amount of dollars a week, but I don't really have anything else to do. Well, okay, that's probably the issue you need to address. How would
Yeah.
you spend your time if you weren't doing taxes, if you weren't doing bookkeeping, if you weren't following up on invoices that needed to be paid, all this clerical administrative duty? What would you be doing? And is it worth more of your time than what you would pay $30 an hour to somebody else to do?
Yeah, absolutely. As you should always have more to do for your business. You should always have something marketing that you can do to reach more people. Again, that's the beauty of the global economy that we have nowadays. If you hire somebody to do work and they can handle 60% of your work, you now have 60% more time to go bring in more clients so that hopefully you need to hire a second person to do that work. And the a CEO of a large corporation never sees the day to day of a business. He just deals with new marketing, new products, new outreach. So that's where you want to get to if you really want to scale your business. And you may enjoy the day to day hands on. So you go into the business every now and then and help out. That's what I do. I stop in my shop maybe once a week and help the guys build and assemble. For the most part, I'm working outward on the business, but I miss it. I miss doing the hands on because I created it all,
Yeah.
and that was my passion. Build it, you know, make it so you can
E-Myth
do it on
is
your terms.
E-Myth is a really great book for this. So a lot of times people think that just because they're good at a thing, that they're going to be good at the business side of it. And those are two different things that we need to understand as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Zach Zanuck from Battle Team Gamma. What are your favorite ways or things you're currently doing to get more comfortable being uncomfortable? Do you have any recommendations for how we can recognize and create those controlled environments for ourselves? He's talking about fear of rejection and how do you not deal with, how do you get comfortable with dealing with the fear on things? Well, you don't get to repetitively do an uncomfortable thing. As I said earlier, once you do it once, you're comfortable with it. Nobody's ever that excited for you that you jumped out of an airplane for the second time. It's only the first time.
Yeah,
So
that's
for
a good
me,
point.
to keep myself trained with doing uncomfortable things, when I order food or go to a restaurant, I most of the time will look for something I've never heard of and order it and try it. Worst case, I don't eat a whole lot, and maybe that's better for my diet. There's lots of opportunities out there. Take a different path home. Just try, drive when you're driving home, try driving a different direction home. Um, Watch a different type of TV show that, put on an old black and white show. Whether or not you enjoy the show doesn't matter. You're becoming comfortable with doing uncomfortable things. Talk to somebody at the grocery store. How dare we, the guy buying the Bud Light, call him out. No, don't do that. Sounds like he would have shot you. Um, you know,
No, he did.
no,
He would
he
have.
said he
He's
was a cowboy.
drinking. Yeah, but he's drinking Bud
Drinking Bud
Light, so
Light.
he's
Of course
probably
he
left his
would.
gun at home. He forgot his gun at home.
Yeah, so literally look opportunities for everything. We're talking a lot of business on this call today. So in the business and entrepreneur world, the opportunities are always out there. You just have to open your mind to them and see them. You have to listen for people saying, "Hey, I wish this would be better," or even in your own life, say, "I wish this would be better." That Do the uncomfortable. Take that next uncomfortable step and say, all right, well, let me see how I can bring that product to fruition. I actually have a list of products that are not even related to my business that people have said to me, man, this would be a great thing. And I keep that list written down. So if I ever want to venture out and do another business, I've got these product ideas ready to go because it'll serve people. It'll be uncomfortable. I'll do it.
Yeah, I like what you said about even just something as simple, and you said it in passing, but I think it's crucial. Starting a conversation with somebody at the grocery store. I wrote down a list here of I think 3 or 4 things that people are most afraid of, and here's what I wrote. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Number one, having a conversation with somebody. Number
Yeah,
two, speaking in public.
for a lot. Yeah.
Number three, asking for something like a discount, for example, asking for something you want, or a date would be another one. Number four, trying something new, just doing something new and willing to risk looking foolish. Those are 4 things I think that people are very, very afraid of. And so, how do you get comfortable with those? Well, for talking with somebody, the best thing you can do is start a conversation. Yesterday, you talked about starting a conversation at the grocery store. I think that's a great place to do it. It's low risk, right? If they think you're an idiot or don't want to talk, they just leave. You're never going to see that person again. So low risk. But I was skiing in Bryant Head here in southern Utah yesterday, and this woman was skiing down, and she was on this ski bike. I'd never seen one in like right there. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was very curious about it. So I just asked her a couple of questions, and we had a really good, I don't know, 30-second conversation about what it's about and if she likes it or doesn't like it. And she was just trying it for the first time, and her husband has done it for a while and he's good at it and she's not. And we just had a good conversation. If you're scared of talking with people, the way that you overcome talking with people is you talk with people.
Yeah,
If we're
that's it.
talking about speaking in public, I'm so afraid to speak in public. Look, guys, do you have an opportunity to present some new strategy or idea at work to 5 of your coworkers? Do that. If there's something that you want to share with about work or a family dynamic, do it over dinner with your 5 or 6 family members. If you're in Rotary, or one that really helped me become a better public speaker was Business Network International, BNI. I went to the president and I would say, hey, if anybody ever bails on doing, because every week there was an opportunity for 1 or maybe 2 people to speak and to share about their business. And I wasn't really comfortable doing this at the time, but I went to the president and I said, hey, if anybody ever bails like they get sick or they can't make it or they forget or whatever. If anybody ever forgets or can't do their presentation, I just need a 60-second warning and I'll fill in. And they're like, really? I'm like, yep, anytime. And there was probably 5 or 6 times where the speaker didn't show up or wasn't prepared or whatever. And they said, hey, Ryan, will you present? Yep. I said, all I need is 60 seconds. And I would pick one element of my business and I'd go share it. And sometimes I did really well. And sometimes I did really poorly, but I had the balls to do it. The other one, asking for a discount or asking for something you want. Guys, if you want to get good at this, just go ask for a discount for the next 30 days, even a week. Do it for a week. Wherever you go to spend money, just ask for a discount. If you go to Starbucks, is because we were talking about Starbucks this morning, go in and say, hey, you guys have any promotions or discounts running right now? Or, hey, I'm a regular here. Is there any discount for a regular? Or, hey, I'm, 60 years old. Do you have a senior citizen discount? I don't care. Just ask for a discount wherever you go.
And by the way,
And
as a business owner, I hate it that you make people do that.
you hated to what?
I hate it that you ask people to do that. It's good for them. It's not good for the business owner.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not really too concerned with the business owner. I'm
Right.
concerned
Oh, yeah.
with the person because the business owner can always say no. People ask me for discounts sometimes. I'm like, no.
Yeah. And as a business owner, that's an uncomfortable conversation. So it teaches them to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then the last one, trying something new. Just go try something new. Go to the gym. Go do jujitsu. Go take a firearms class. Go take an art class. Go take a cooking class. Go whatever. Like just do something new that you've never done before. Or if a buddy calls you up and says, "Hey, we're going dirt biking this weekend. Do you want to go?" Yes. Well, but I've never been. I know that's why you're going. So you can
Yeah.
say that you've done it and you can learn something. And who knows, maybe you're going to find the hobby that you just love. Go just say yes. Enough with I'm busy, you can, or this or that. No, just say yes. I think if you
It's,
incorporate those things, you'll have a lot of success in not really worrying about doing something outside of your comfort zone.
there's two catchphrases. You just mentioned both of them actually that I've used as a trigger for myself personally, and the listeners can do this too. When you say I've never done that, that for me, when I say that, that's a trigger. Oh, okay, let me try it. If it takes
Right.
an afternoon or an hour or whatever, I get to try something different and experience something new on the planet. How awesome is that? That's what life is about. And then if I say I don't like something, I I have to catch myself and say, well, did I do that a couple weeks ago and I didn't like doing that? Did I try, have I eaten that food recently? Or when I was a little kid, did I not like beans? So I'm, 53 years old now and saying I don't like beans. Well, maybe it's time to try them again. So when I say I don't like that, I have to catch myself and think, have I actually ever tried it? Or am I just
Mm.
saying I don't like that? And there is a I'm not interested in. That's okay. And sometimes you even do the I'm not interested in because it doesn't take a lot of vesting of your time to do. I'm not interested in running a marathon. And so I'm not going to go through all the training it takes to run a marathon. But if somebody says, "Hey, we're doing a 100-yard dash competition," sure, I'll try that. Why not? Do uncomfortable.
I'm writing down because you had said I'm not interested in doing a marathon. That was the example that you used. We have to be honest with ourselves. Are you not interested in doing a marathon? Like, is that really what you're not interested in? Or are you not interested in being uncomfortable, pushing outside of your comfort zone, willing to look foolish? I don't know the answer. Only ourselves individually can answer that. I'm not interested, meaning you're not interested in the thing, or are you not interested in the risk associated with it, the fear of doing something new? Be honest with yourself about what you're really not interested in.
Right, exactly. Know yourself deeper and continue the conversation with yourself. When you say I'm not interested or I don't like or I've never done it, that's not the end of a conversation. That's the start of a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's next? Let's take a couple
Next
more,
one.
Alan.
All right, we're gonna move into Instagram now. Uh Oh Pay Old School asks, how masterize my job when I work in home with two little kids? I mean, how to be more productive.
What was the
So
first part? How what? I just didn't catch it.
there's a little language barrier here. It's basically how to masterize my job when I work at home with two little kids.
Oh
So I think,
yeah.
yeah. Look,
Yeah.
that's been
Well,
getting asked a lot since COVID. Go ahead, you on that one.
yeah, I do this.
Yeah, you
So
do.
this can be a challenge. And I've done this for, well, 9 years now, actually a little longer than 9 years because I was doing it in my financial planning practice as well. It's a challenge. It really is. The thing that got me the most, Alan, was the guilt. I had guilt coming at me from both sides. So when I was working on my business, I had guilt feeling like I wasn't there and present with my family. I could literally hear them outside doing their thing, and I was guilty that I wasn't out there with them. And then when I would go out there and I'd spend time with my kids or have lunch or do whatever I was doing, I could hear all my emails and all the things going on over here in my office. And I was guilty that I wasn't there. So I had guilt coming from both sides because I wasn't paying enough attention to one or the other. A couple of things. In Maine, it was a little bit more simple because I was in a different part of the house. So that helped. And what I would say to you is, regardless of the size of your house, you have to have a dedicated space.
Yes.
If your office is in the kitchen at the little table by the counter, failure. It's not going to work. I promise you, it's not going to work. If it's in the bedroom, where the bed and the bathroom and kids are coming in, your wife's coming, it's not going to work. You have to have a dedicated space. I would choose the basement in the back corner, and I would get away from, as far as you can, the family and everything else that's going on. Second to that is making sure that you're communicating effectively with your family, because your kids want to be with you. Like, you're there, dad's home, I want to be with dad. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. They want to spend time with you. They want to be with you. They care about you. They love you. They're excited about your time together. But you have to be able to have conversations with them about when is work time and when is family time. So if you're going to work, for example, from 9 to noon, then that time is dedicated to work time. If your wife comes in and she says, "Hey, hon, will you take out the trash at 10:30?" The answer is no. If your kids come in and say, "Hey, dad, jump on the trampoline for 15 minutes," the answer has to be no. And the way that you give that a better, softer delivery is you say, "Hey, hon, I can't take out the trash right now, but I take lunch from noon to 1. I'll come up there. You and I, let's have lunch together, and I'll take the trash out before I go to work. Go back to work at 1." Or if the kids are like, "Hey, dad, we want to jump on the trampoline." "Hey, guys, as you know, I'm working from 9 to noon. During lunch, mom and I are going to have lunch together for about 30, 40 minutes. And I'll spend about 10 minutes with you jumping on the trampoline before I go back to work at 1. You have to treat this as a separate space, and you have to communicate with them, because they won't understand if you're not communicating. They're like, "Well, what the hell? Dad's home. Like, why isn't he playing with us? He hates us. He doesn't want to be with us." No, that's not the case, but you're failing to communicate it effectively with them. And then the third component is you actually have to honor the schedule. So if you tell your wife, "Hey, hon, I can't take the trash out. We agreed. I'm working from 9 to 1. And then from 1 to 5, like we agreed on that. I can't take the trash out right now. But I'll tell you what, I'll do it when I get done with work at 5 o'clock." You have to be done at 5 o'clock. You have to. Not 5:15, not, "Hey, hon, I got a few more emails and then I'll come up." Nope. You have to be done at 5 o'clock. If it's going to be a few more emails, then tell her 5:30. But you have to be honest about it, and you have to make sure that you're adhering to the system, because now your words have weight. When you say, "Hey, hon, at 5 o'clock, I'll come to take the trash out, and then I'm all yours for the evening," that means the phone goes away, the trash goes out, and everything gets taken care of. That way, tomorrow, when she says, "Hey, hon, will you load the dishwasher at 1:30 in the afternoon?" and you say no, she's not been out of shape about it. She's like, "Oh, yeah, he'll do it this afternoon because I know he will, because this is what he does." So create a separate space. Point number one. Point number two, communicate the boundaries. Point number three, honor the boundaries.
Yeah, you killed that really well. One of the things I've seen one of the other men in the Iron Council do is he got a hang tag to put on the door that says, "I'm working right now. This is not a
Yeah.
good time," especially when he was on calls. For me, my wife moved into my home office after COVID and has never left, and she does a lot of phone calls with her work. So we, again, boundaries and the communication. Will every day in the morning go over what time she has calls scheduled for. I'll go over what time that I may have calls scheduled for. So we try not even to be in the office at the same time. If she's on the phone, I don't even want to be in there. And that lunchtime it gets recommunicated. Sometimes it's done with post-it notes, whatever it takes to make it clear. She seems to hate it when I come in the door singing and she's on a work call. So, you know,
Surprise, surprise. She
yeah,
seems
parent,
bothered
right?
by that.
Yeah. I sing happy songs. So yeah, communication and boundaries, you two biggest things for that. And it can be done very successfully and happily when you reciprocating kind of coming out of your workspace in a happy mood and ready to deliver to your wife or kids so that they're like, all right, don't bother dad when he's in there because you get grumpy dad, but when he comes out, he'll be happy dad if you didn't bother him.
Mm-hmm.
So, reward the good behavior with those boundaries.
I had a friend who would come home from work and he had this tree outside of his front yard and it had this big limb that was probably, I don't know, 6.5 feet off the ground. And he would quite literally get home, pull into his driveway, go out, hang on the limb for, 10, 20, 30 seconds, and then go back inside. And he was telling me about this. I asked why he did it. He says, because I'm hanging my troubles at the door.
All right. Actually
That's
hanging his troubles.
That's what he would do. That was his mechanism. That was his cue. I'm gonna go hang, release all this stuff. This is separate. This is compartmentalized to work. And now I'm gonna come home, engaged with my family. And it was a pretty cool lesson, and I think we could do a better job, whether we're quite literally hanging from a limb or we just mentally prepare ourselves. That's why I tell a lot of guys who have a commute. Let's say you have an hour-long commute from work. If you're like me, I want to listen to a podcast or maybe the radio. I want to catch up on what I might miss, or I'm super efficient when it comes to learning about any self development type stuff. But one thing that's helped me when I did have a commute is I would listen for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then the last half hour, no music, no podcast, no noise. It was just me transitioning. Okay, I finished all these things at work. Oh, you know what? I need to do that thing. Okay, noted. Yep, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. Clear it out. Okay, now switch into dad mode. Okay, here's a question that I would ask myself: what can I do, and how can I show up tonight to be the best dad that I can be, or the best husband that I can be? Because we'll do it when we go to work, right? We're like, man, if I get this done and this done and this done, that'll be a productive day. And I got this deadline and this task, and I got to talk to my boss about this, and I got to give this presentation, and we plan out our day at work, but we don't do it at home. Man, I'm going to
Yeah, I
show
do.
up and I'm going to hug my kids first thing. I'm going to give my wife, the best welcome home kiss I've ever given her. I'm going to grab her ass when I walk by and like embrace her fully. Then I'm going to put all my stuff down. I'm going to wrestle with the kids. And then I'm going to help my wife cook dinner. And then we're all going to sit together as a family. And these are the questions I'm going to ask while we're at dinner because I want to hear about what they have to say. And then after dinner, we're all going to go on a walk together. Or we're going to jump on the trampoline, or we're going to read a book, or we're going to wrestle. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to put the kids down. And then when I put the kids down, then my wife and I are going to have a conversation about our day. And then ideally, I'd like to take her to the bedroom and have sex with her. But we don't plan it out that way. We do it
No,
with work, but we don't do it with home. Man, what if we did it with home?
laser specific on your vision. The more clarity you can bring to a vision, but you're right. We don't think about our vision throughout our day. We think about it more globally. But the reality is, like for me, at the end of every task I'm doing, when I'm done with an email, when I'm done with this podcast, I'll do the AAR. You talk about the AARs all the time. Then I'll take a quick pause. A couple seconds for breathing is all it takes usually if the thing goes well. And what that does is that lets that event end for me by just blanking my mind out. Then I consciously think about what it is I've got to do next. If you're driving home from work or if you're finishing up in your home office, all right, what's the next thing I have to do? What that does is that brings focus to what you're going to do next. It helps you clear you of everything else that you might be on your mind if you're thinking about the next task. Then I think about what's the outcome that I want? How do I want that task to go? If it's especially in communications with other people, I want to think about what do I want that interaction to be? And then the third part is how do I need to show up to get that result? It's three things. And look, this takes 5 seconds when you train yourself to do it constantly. what do I want or how do I need to show up? That's actually on my keyboard on my main computer because probably the hardest part to do is to frame yourself the right way. Most of the time, it's polite, it's courteous. In the business world, it's professional. Sometimes you got to get a little angry. Sometimes you got to speak a little sterner, but select it. Choose your emotion and choose your action that you're going to take to get the vision that you want to happen. So you've got focus, you've got a vision, and you've got a plan. That's what we talk about all the time. Do it on a not even just on a daily, on a between task level. And it's amazing once you turn that into a habit, how much more you'll accomplish in your life, how much better life will go because it's on your terms.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Alan, let's wrap this up today. We've been about an hour. I'll wrap this up for us, Alan, since this is your first visit. I'm sure we'll do more of having you on the Ask Me Anything. But guys, I hope that this has served you. I hope we've given you some things to consider and some answers to chew on a little bit. Not that they are the answers, but hopefully they'll give you something to think about as you try to solve your own problems. And that's what you need to do. Solve your own issues. And hopefully we can give you some things to consider as you do. Guys, a couple of things, announcements. Number one is we have our Uprising event. We have 5 spots available. That's May 2nd through the 5th. That's a 3.5-day experience here in Southern Utah. I'm going to be there. Alan's going to be there. And we're going to have about 3 or 4 other cadre members who are going to be there. We'd love to see you there. So please do that. Also, if you want to make sure that when we open up our exclusive brotherhood, which we talked about a couple of times throughout this podcast, we're going to open up in March, mid-March, so a little over a month. If you want to be ready for that, I would encourage you to go check out the Battle Ready program. That's a 30-day email series. So you're going to get 17 emails over a span of 30 days, and it's going to help you talk about the focus and the planning and everything that Alan just shared and come up with a vision and something very specific, including tactics that you can employ on a daily basis in order to accomplish your most pressing objectives. So you can check that out at orderaman.com/battle ready. So it's orderaman.com/battle ready and orderaman.com/uprising. Alan, anything else before we close it out today?
It's grateful that you had me here. Guys, reach out. I'm on the Order of Man Facebook page, so I'm happy to answer questions there. I constantly do. So look, the more you communicate, and that's even what this call is about, is who, not how. It's knowing who to talk to, who to listen to further your life. So thank you for having me, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. All right, guys, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.